Welcome back to the Unsweetened Truth with Kristen. On today's podcast, we're going to be discussing a fun topic for me. Maybe not for you, but for me. Culture and communication. This is going to be a great podcast for any leader, CEO, business owner, somebody who's trying to really hone in on their communication skills. Maybe they're noticing certain things in their organization, a little phoniness, a little passive aggressiveness, a little bit of, we're sending texts and emails and we should be doing phone calls. And truthfully, it's kind of going to be for anybody at your organization at any level. So hopefully this is for you. If it's not for you, please forward it along to somebody at your organization that may benefit from it. But I really look forward to talking to you guys today. This is the Unsweetened Truth Podcast. This podcast is for the things that people don't talk about, the lessons that push you forward, the challenges that almost take you out, and the choices that shape your life. Leadership, work, life, and everything in between. Like hanging out with your big sister and best friend, who also happens to be a boss. Let's talk, grow, and figure it out together. On today's episode, we're going to talk about culture and communication. And the reason we're going to talk about culture and communication is because I feel like I know there's a severe culture issue in businesses, and there's a really bad communication problem in a majority of businesses. And I just wrote a post the other day about this, about how indirectness is killing your culture, and it's unkind, right? Phony language, phony behavior, people pleasing, not being truly honest is not good. It's not benefiting everybody. And it's disguised in this fear of wanting to be liked, wanting to be accepted. And as leaders, because that's who I'm speaking to right now, and obviously if you're also not, a leader and you want to become a leader, or you don't want to become a leader, I really think you'd probably benefit from this all together. But as a leader, it's not your job to be liked. It's your job to do the right thing, and it's your job to be respected. So let's talk about communication today. Let's talk about culture, and hopefully you can take a couple things away from it that you can implement immediately. And as always, feel free to ask us questions for future episodes. I foresee probably at least a part 1, part 2 out of this. But communication is really important to me. So let's get started. So when I think about culture at a company, and that word is, I don't want to call it overused, but it's just the word that's been the word to describe your group of people at work and how they all get involved with each other. And because I am involved in brands, I think that's relevant to it. But at the end of the day, your culture is just your group of people, how they interact, what they believe in, what they think about, how they operate as a group, right? There's so much involved in your culture, but it's how people show up every day, and it's the feeling that they have when they get there, the feeling they have when they leave. There's so many things all involved in it. What culture is not is a picture in HR's office that says, we believe in integrity. We believe in whatever that your marketing team made, put it on a wall, post it on social media, and there you go. All done. Our culture is complete. That is not true. That is not how it works. And there's a lot of companies out there that believe that if they put it on the wall, that's enough. And it's not. And your hiring probably shows that. Your turnover probably shows that. And the mental health of your employees probably shows that. So let's start just at the beginning talking about communication. And I have all sorts of notes on this because communication is huge. And it really is going to be the foundation for how your entire company operates. And communication is something that's very important to me. And it's also something that I hold very high at my companies, with my clients, and whatever. And I operate in a way that if you have experienced mostly phoniness and indirectness and passive aggressiveness, I probably could come across sounding pretty mean because I'm direct and I'm straight to the point. Just because you think it's mean does not mean that I'm mean. It just means that I cut through all of the extra BS and fluff and when we know there's a problem. I don't need to sit there and do small talk for 30 minutes and not accomplish anything. My goal at the end of the day is to create a healthy work environment, a healthy culture, be a strong leader, and lead by example when interacting with any clients, employees, friends, contractors, partnerships, whatever it may be. That is my goal. So I want to talk about a couple things in regards to powerful ways that you guys can better communicate with people at work, and just things that I've seen that are really causing a lot of issues. One is that you need to show that you're people that you care. If your people don't know that you care about them, there's not going to be any sort of honesty, right? I imagine many of us have worked in environments that just HR doesn't really care. HR works for the company. They don't work for you. Your manager is just kind of trying to catch you. They're not necessarily genuinely committed to your growth. You can feel that as a person, right? At the end of the day, we're not just hiring employees, we're hiring people. So a lot of these tactics that work at work also should be in your personal life. And so if you're someone that really wants to show your people that you care, you actually have to care about them. Okay. This isn't one of those fake it till you make it type situations. If you don't genuinely care about your people, I'd kind of be asking you what you're doing, or maybe that's just the type of company that you want to be running. That's fine. That's your company. But if you are somebody that genuinely believes in the care of your people, you need to show them, you need to communicate them. And then just think about, how do you know that someone cares about you? They pay attention to you. They listen. They give you their attention. They remember things about you. And that's personal and professional, right? Those people that have probably spent a long of their life with people that kind of just brushed them off or never cared about them. Hey, how's your daughter doing? I know you said that she was, going to college. It's your first kid. How are you doing through all of that? Taking that extra step, that took me, I'm looking at the camera right here. That took me 2 seconds to say that. That builds so much loyalty amongst people. Hey, Gina, you're getting married next year. I'm so excited for you. Let me know how you want to plan for that. Carolyn, you just had to move from one place to another. How's that going? Paying attention to people and paying attention to your people goes a very, very long way. Or you can choose, and again, you can do whatever you want. You can do whatever you want. This is just how I lead my business and how I want to be engaging with other people who lead their businesses this way. You can be the type of person that's like, hey, Carol, did you get that done? Hey, Gina, saw your post last week. Thanks so much. Appreciate it. Every interaction is just business. You can lead your business that way. However, I foresee you're probably, as we go further along in this podcast, navigating some really difficult things. Here's on the flip side, though. You go too far in the fake phoniness side, you're never going to accomplish anything. Which brings me to a piece of advice that I really, really want to give. A lot of people dance around tough and difficult topics. That is not kind. That is not helpful. That is not useful. If you want to be a manager and you want to be a leader, and I'm talking about the leaders that are also promoting leaders too, lead by example. Have the hard conversations, especially the hard conversations. For example, let's say what I've seen, because I've experienced it, and I also make sure to do the opposite now. Let's say I hire a new employee at my company, or you hire a new employee at your company. Management's talked about it, HR has talked about it, and we know that we're hiring this person. And let's say it's a similar role of somebody else that's currently working at your company. And guess what? If you never communicate to that other employee with that role and they see a LinkedIn notification of their exact position is going up, what do you think that's going to do to that person? That's going to set them into a place of panic, fear. What's going on? Am I being replaced? I'm in that role. Am I getting fired? What's going on? Da-da-da. When you, at the end of the day, in your heart of hearts, you might realize we need another person in this department. But you never took the time to look at the person and go, you are a human first, and you have very real human thoughts, feelings, experiences, and whatever. Take the 5 minutes, go talk to Joe, who's also in that department, and say, hey, Joe, before anything goes up, I love to address the red flag. I love to get ahead of it. I love to be over communicating so nobody ever gets to a place that they go, why is this happening? What's going on? Whatever. There's no guessing game. I don't want to play a guessing game because I guarantee when someone guesses, they're going to guess wrong. They're going to guess anxiety. They're going to guess fear. You're going to guess the worst case scenario. They're not going to guess, oh my gosh, they must be hiring somebody else in this position because I'm just doing so great. They want me to have a buddy. Nobody is doing that. So stop not communicating. You need to take Joe aside. When you've decided as management, you don't need to include somebody because that's the other extreme side of this. You include somebody in everything. There should be a hierarchy. Management and HR can sit and they can talk to each other. They could go, we need somebody else in Joe's department. Joe has been struggling to manage his workload. I think we can handle it from a budgetary standpoint. Let's go ahead and hire somebody else in Joe's department. I think Becky would be really great. We got this resume. Let's take care of it. Someone needs to go talk to Joe. Go talk to Joe and say to Joe, hey, Just want to, you got a second? Yeah, sure, of course. Just want to let you know, you've been absolutely doing a phenomenal job in your role. We've noticed though that and mind you, this also, to be clear, should not be probably the first time that you're ever talking to Joe about his workload. If you had active communication with this person, he would know that this is coming. I have never blindsided anybody at any of my companies with a hire. Never. They know way before it even happens. They know when I start even first thinking about it, because I want everyone to not be blindsided. I want them to know exactly their roles, where they're laying, and whatever. But let's pretend you haven't said anything to Joe. Let's pretend you're working on becoming a leader. So what you're going to do is you're going to go and talk to Joe and say, hey, Joe, just want to make you aware. I notice all the great hard work you've been doing. I've noticed that you've got honestly too much work for your own plate, and you've been doing such a great job. I don't want the quality of your work to decrease. So I want to talk to you about adding another person into this department to help you. I need your help to find that person, to make sure that person is a good fit. What do you think, Joe? Joe has now he's gotten some treats from you. Oh my gosh, I'm so excited. I've been doing a good job. Great. Now I'm going to have somebody else come in here. And you want me to help you make sure that they're good for a fit. Oh my gosh, now I can help and I can be even more involved in a part of the company. Joe's probably going to ask a couple questions and you navigate the questions. You answer them honestly. He might say, well, does this mean, you might have an employee with a lot of anxiety. Joe might say to you, what does this mean for me? Like, does that mean that my role's changing this? Be prepared for those questions and answer them honestly. Answer them honestly. Becky's going to take this. You're going to take this. This, I think, is your plan. Yada, yada, yada. Here we go. Leaders ignore that constantly. They ignore it with clients. They ignore it with their employees. They ignore it with management. They ignore it across the board. It takes no time. We are so scared in that interaction that Joe's going to be like, what the heck? What do you mean? That never happens. You can avoid that. You can avoid massive emotional reactions and things like that a majority of the time. However, there are definitely times, and I can do all of the steps right. I only control 50%. But you need to do your best job to control that 50% the best way you can, and that's going to be with communication. So that's something I wanted to talk about. Another one is showing the care, addressing the red flags. I want to talk something else about culture and communication of that culture. We run a social media marketing branding company. This is a very real thing that I experience constantly. And it's really frustrating to watch companies not even communicate or care about their employees, but think that if we put a social media post up online that says, hey, Bob, congratulations for your 15 years that you've worked here and you haven't talked to Bob in 5, that's not culture. If you have not talked to Bob in 5 years and you think a post is going to make him feel, oh my gosh, thank goodness, I can't wait to be here another 15 years. You need to have a relationship with Bob, period, the end. What's going on with Bob? How's he doing? Why does he like working here so much? Bob is going to be your best friend with so many different business decisions, but people don't care enough about their people. And you can't fake it, guys. You can't fake good culture. You can initially for a short period of time. It's like dating. You can fake it for a certain period of time, but then the mask will come off. It will be obvious that you don't care about your people. It will be obvious that you don't communicate. It will be obvious that it's chaotic. Communication should be in every single department, and it needs to be handled well, and it needs to start at the top. Other examples of phoniness and just things that need to be taken out of the equation in the workplace is vague responses, right? Let's talk about communication with vague responses. Something like, I'll get that to you. I'll get it to you. Top of my priority list. And I imagine you've heard that before. What does that tell you? Indirectness is unkind and confusing. We have to communicate better at work. You could say, hey, I'll get it to you by Friday. And if you as a leader says something that's the top of your priority list and I failed at this, I'm not perfect, but you say something along the lines of like, this is top of my priority list, I'm going to get it done. You better have that at the top of your priority list and you better get it done. Okay? You better get it done. Something else that I find very common in workplaces is their inability to either train, set the expectations, set the standards, whatever it is, on texting, emailing, in-person meetings, and phone calls. For whatever reason, we have this epidemic right now of passive aggressiveness. I blame this partially on like the social media world and Just that people are really losing touch with how to communicate, social skills, whatever it is. And I also think, truthfully, not enough people have sat in a meeting and gotten yelled at by a boss to know that you can't send an email like that. Okay. There's not enough people who have gone through, my team likes to call it the Scared Straight program, to go, okay, I can't send an email like that because that is inappropriate. That's a problem. Let's talk about when you should send a text, when you should send an email, when you should have a phone call, and when you should have an in-person meeting. And realistically, they fall into a couple of categories. I know there's more categories, but here's the main one. Is there anything emotional that you are communicating? Is there any emotions at all in what you are saying or the communication that is about to occur? If there's an emotion, you're not going to want to have a text and you're not going to want to have an email. That is going to be misconstrued. Somebody can hear it the wrong way. They could get offended. This, again, you only control 50%, but you hitting send is the 50% that you can control. If anything is emotional, there is no emotion in text. There is no emotion. And you can make a lot of assumptions about the emotion because you can't hear someone talking. You can't see their eyes. You can't see their body language. That's why you need to be really careful when you're having an emotional conversation and you try to do it through text or you try to do it through email. Text and email are for quick updates and quick announcements, blasting things out in like a very convenient period of time. Emotions are not convenient. Emotions need to be paid attention to and taken care of with care. Okay. Now let's talk about the other category of thing. Is there anything that I am saying that could potentially be taken the wrong way? Probably shouldn't put it in a text, probably shouldn't put it in an email. A phone call is really good if it still needs to be somewhat convenient and it can't wait until you see somebody, but you still want to make sure that they hear you the way that you need to be heard. And you just need to be like, we need to have a conversation. If you are Gen Z, millennial, even after that, I'm just going to focus on those because those are the ones typically I'm working with and I'm hiring. Your greatest skill that you could create is the ability to send good emails, good text messages, and have a phone call and handle a meeting in person, verbally communicating with somebody. So you would be like in the top 80 probably plus percentile of your age group and your colleagues if you know how to communicate and socialize on the phone and in a personal meeting. In-person meetings. Those need to occur when the conversation and the topic at hand is pretty serious. Doesn't have to be serious bad, could be serious good. There's a very powerful thing that happens when you sit together in a room and you look at each other and you look each other in the eye and you say, let's help each other. Let's work on this. Let's solve this problem. What are we thinking? Let's get everybody together. We are losing sight of what is appropriate in emails, what is appropriate in text messages, all in the name of avoidance and being fearful of other people. We need to stop doing that. Workplaces need to stop making that be a thing. It is abusing your employees. Your employees are abusing each other. Clients are abusing your employees. Your employees are probably abusing your clients and each other. And there we go. We're on this hamster wheel. You need to really get in check in regards to the type of communication that you are having at your company and how people are communicating. Be very, very careful of that. I think another thing with communication is you always want to get ahead of anything that is going on. And if you can improve your communication skills, I would definitely recommend this. And that's being able to communicate in clear, concise, and consistent ways. If you can figure out how to communicate clearly, if you can figure out how to communicate concisely, and you can figure out how to communicate consistently, you're going to see a lot of success. And it really needs to start with the top down. Management, leadership, ownership, and it will trickle through the rest of the organization. And any of these behaviors that you allow, these emails firing back and forth, these text messages, these meetings that should be in person, but they're going back and forth through text message, the most toxic behavior that you allow will be the one that destroys the business. It'll be the one that destroys the company. It will set the standard for the culture. As an adult, you need to navigate your fear of being disliked and talked about and thought about and whatever once you get into the workplace. You're not really scared of what's actually in front of you. A majority of people are scared of the person that yelled at them in the past or, bullied them somewhere else. And it can feel like that as an adult. We don't lose bullying. We don't lose any of that stuff when you get into the workplace. And leadership just really has to set the standard. Another thing that I would recommend to people in regards to communication is just that you should always try to be utilizing communication to get ahead of your team. And something that I make sure that I always do, and it could be perceived as over communication, but I'd rather be accused of over communicating than under communicating. Every single time we have a meeting, we have an update, there's something going on, I'm sending that either in a text, in an email, or we're having a quick call that's just is everybody on the same page? How does everybody feel about this? By the way, this is coming on deck, in the hole. Here's what's up next. It's something that they might not even have to be thinking about for 2 months. But what I do not want to create is a culture or an environment of chaos. I want to create my team to be so proactive and thinking ahead and looking at stuff. And if I can communicate, and I know this as a leader, my team is worried about their independent job. That is normal. They're not worried about what I'm worried about. I need to be worried about what I'm worried about. They're worried about their role. So if Gina's working on what she's working on, Carolyn's working on what she's working on, Chrissy's working on what she's working on, Steve's working on what he's working on, I need to be the one that's constantly ahead. Here's what's coming up. Here's what we need to be thinking about. That's helping to train them to build better time management. That's helping them go, okay, that's how I want to be communicating. That feels good. I like it. I know that my team will get anxiety when we're operating in a reactive state. I want to be operating as much proactively as I can. So I know that if I can communicate with them and say, hey, just got off this call with a client, really a potential client, really great. Looks like something we might be doing in October. We might have to travel somewhere. I'll go ahead and I always called soft hold. It was so funny when they first all started working here. They were like, what is a soft hold? Which I understand that sounds weird, but now they get it and they use the language themselves. That's just something that, hey, I'm going to put it out there. So that way everybody knows it's happening. You're going to get a notification in your email. You don't have to wonder when it says, this or whatever. You'll know exactly what's going on. No chaos. Because if I change my employees, if I shift their mind with chaos or fear or uncertainty, it takes them off task of the thing that they need to be working on. And that's really the true purpose of communication. I want them to stay on task. I want them to stay involved in what they're doing. I don't want them to be worried about whether or not they're being replaced or this or that, or what is this meeting, or do I have to come to this? Do I not have to come to this? Where do I need to go to? That takes up so much mental energy. You are literally throwing money out the door. So learn how to freaking communicate. I will also give another tip here because that just gave me another example. When you put a meeting in someone's calendar, let's over communicate as to what the meeting is about. How many times have someone just, hey, I'm going to throw a meeting in your, or they don't even say they're throwing a meeting in your calendar. A boss just throws a meeting in your calendar and it just says meeting and it's with them and there's no explanation of anything like that. I rarely do that to my team, if ever have I done that to my team, because I know what that feels like when you get hit with a random meeting. One, the employees that are good, that want to be prepared, can't. The employees that have anxiety, you've just skyrocketed it. The employees that maybe don't even have anxiety, when you put an email or a calendar invite in someone's calendar for a meeting with their boss, majority of people are going to be nervous. Now their day is 50% of their brain is spending time thinking about that instead of focusing on their work. So instead, why don't you just go, hey, Chad, I'm throwing a meeting in your calendar for Friday because I feel like I'm not caught up on this project that you're working on, and I would love if you could catch me up on that project. Oh my gosh, Chad's like, yeah, no problem. I'll have my stuff together. No big deal. Imagine if you just threw that hour meeting in Chad's calendar on Friday and it's Monday. Chad is going to be stressed for the rest of the week. All it took was a little bit of communication. So please, 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 please. And I know we only had 30 minutes to sit here and talk about this. I could talk about communication for hours. Really push yourself out of your comfort zone, especially if you're a leader. But again, if you're in any role, communication is important. Push yourself out of your comfort zone. Try to communicate clearly. Try to communicate concisely and try to communicate consistently. Be honest, be truthful, be deliberate, have the best intentions with your words. You want everyone to be better. That is the goal of communication. Start at the top, work your way down. It will absolutely transform your culture in your organization. Thanks so much for listening to today's episode on communication and culture. If you have any future questions or future ideas, feel free to subscribe, follow our channel, follow us on social media, submit any future questions. I'm hopeful that you got something from it, something that you can take today and implement into your organization tomorrow. Remember, communication is really the foundation of building trust in any sort of organization and any sort of relationship. So work on it, try on it. Nobody's perfect. You can just try to get 1% better every single day. And thank you so much for listening to this podcast. And I look forward to talking to you guys next week.